All right, welcome to Talking Investing. I'm Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. Today, I want to go through February Bitcoin mining results. So all the major Bitcoin miners have now put out their monthly operational update for the month of February. So I've compiled all that data as always, and I've gone through and made my normal charts. I did make some changes to one chart, so stay tuned for that. If you haven't done so yet, please remember to subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. Also, if you enjoy this content, you can support the channel by hitting the join button. It's $5 a month. There's a lot of members only content. There's also a members only live stream once a week, Tuesday after the market closes. In addition to that, there's a members-only Discord that we get to share. So I appreciate everybody supporting the channel. Let's get to the video. So let's get right to it. I'm going to start out with Bitcoin production for the month of February. This chart excludes Core Scientific. We'll look at them later. They did mine, I think, 1,362 Bitcoin. They are in Chapter 11, so it's comparing apples to oranges. So of the rest of the companies, Marathon finished in first place this month at 683 Bitcoin. Riot finished in second place, just a few Bitcoin behind them at 675 Bitcoin. Cleanspark was about 100 behind that at 576. Then Cypher is now in fourth place. So 3 months ago, Cypher was not on this list at all. They are now all the way in fourth place out of all the Bitcoin miners. So Cypher has made monumental progress in the last 3 or 4 months. Bitfarms is now in fifth place with 387 Bitcoin mined. So that top 5 is pretty rock solid. It's going to be a little while before anybody even stands a chance of breaking into that top 5. I will tell you, there are 2 companies that I think by the end of the year could make a run at breaking into that top 5. And they are Hut8 and Wolf, TeraWolf. Other than that, it would be a big surprise to me if another Bitcoin miner was able to make their way and break into that top 5. Obviously, it's early in the year. These are only February's results, so there's a long way to go, and an awful lot can happen. We saw that last year. Things did change drastically from the beginning of the year to the end of the year in 2022. So rounding out the list is Hive Blockchain at 250. They are pretty much set in 6th place right now. Argo Blockchain at 162. Hut and Iris Energy both mined 156, so they tied for 8th place. So that leaves TeraWolf in 10th place with 143. So again, you can see a clear top 3 here with Marathon, Riot, and CleanSpark, and then a clear top 5 with adding Cypher and Bitfarms to that. Okay, so I just want to look at this one other way because it does affect a lot of the other numbers in the month of February. Remember, February is the shortest month of the year. It has 28 days. January obviously has 31 days. March has 31 days. So in the middle is this shorter month. So when we compare month to month, we need to bear in mind that this was a short month, and that absolutely does have an impact on these total numbers. You're going to see almost every single Bitcoin miner on this list mined less in the month of February than they did in the month of January, and that is typically going to be true. So the only Bitcoin miner that bucked that trend was number 4, Cypher. Cypher mined 343 Bitcoin in January and 398 Bitcoin in February, and that is because Cypher is on a fast track of growth right now. All the other Bitcoin miners on this list, and I have included Core Scientific in this instance, all the rest of them produced less Bitcoin in February than in January. So to me, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just is what it is. February is usually going to be one of the lower months of the year, in addition to the fact that it has less days. There was also some very big difficulty level increases in the Bitcoin mining network. So, that was a double whammy. So I do think most of these numbers are represent pretty decent numbers for the month of February. Okay, with that said, let's take a look at year to date. So we're only 2 months into the year. So I do have Core Scientific on here. I don't have them with the ranking. So they've mined 2,889 Bitcoin in 2 months. That would be number 1, but again, since they're in Chapter 11, I'm setting them aside. So out of all the companies that have not filed for bankruptcy, Riot is in first place year to date at 1,415. Marathon is right behind at 1,370. Those 2 are the 2 largest by market cap by far. These are the 2 that we would expect to be leading this pack. In 2022, particularly Marathon was lagging way behind. It looks like they're starting to grow into the plans that they've been talking about. So Riot at 1, Marathon at 2. CleanSpark is really pretty close behind in third place at 1,273. And then once again, you're going to see those top 3 have separated themselves from the group. So there's a drop to number 4, which is Bitfarms at 873, and Cypher at 741 is at number 5. Cypher and Bitfarms are probably going to have a pretty close race in the year 2023, in my opinion. We're going to have to wait and see how the rest of the year goes. Then we've got Hive at number 6, and then there's a pretty big drop off. Hut is at number 7. HODL, for those of you who don't know, actually had to turn off a bunch of their machines. They're also in the middle of a pending potential merger, so there's a lot going on over at HODL. They're in a massively transitional period. So at the moment, year to date, they are in 7th place with 344 Bitcoin mined. Argo Blockchain is in 8th with 330. Iris Energy is in 9th with 328. TeraWulf in 10th with 300. Now remember, I did say I think TeraWulf stands a chance of getting into the top 5. They just added a massive amount of exahash, so we should see their March numbers jump dramatically. We'll have to wait and see, but according to their February update, that's what they're telling us to expect for the month of March. And then I did include Bit Digital as 11th place, even though this should be a top 10 list. They're the only other Bitcoin miner that has mined a significant amount of Bitcoin. They've mined 243 Bitcoin so far year to date, and from there it's a big drop off. Okay, next let's take a look at exahash. So this is each Bitcoin miner's exahash, and this is their exahash as of the last day of the month. So Core Scientific is at 16.7. They were at 17 last month. They went down a little bit. I don't really know what the difference was, but essentially they still remain by far the largest Bitcoin miner. Although again, I have to say they are in chapter 11, so from a shareholder standpoint, we don't know what any of this means. Okay, past that, we have some companies that are catching up that I expect potentially to catch up to and or pass Core Scientific at some point this year. So Riot right now is number 1 at 9.8 exahash. Marathon is number 2 at 9.5 exahash, but I will make a note. They mentioned that they have 14.0 exahash actually hooked up and ready to go, but 4.5 exahash of that is yet to be energized. So they're waiting to get the power to those machines, and if they can do that in the next few months, that's going to be a big jump for them. You'll see CleanSpark is at number 3 with 6.6 exahash. That remained the same. They did buy 20,000 machines. They expect to get to 9 exahash over the course of the next couple of months. That puts Cypher in 4th place. You'll see they're at 5.2 exahash. They are expecting to be at 6 exahash shortly. They have plans to get to 7, and then we're going to have to wait and see what their plans are from there. They drastically dialed back their plans. However, it took all year for them to get going last year, and now over the last 3 or 4 months, they have been adding a lot of exahash rapidly. Bitfarms is at 4.7. That is the same month over month. Bitfarms is another one that has a lot of machines that are not yet up and running, and that is because they're waiting to get them through customs. So we're going to see how long that takes. In the meantime, they're at 4.7 exahash. Then you see a pretty big drop off. Hive is at 3.0 exahash. TeraWulf ended the month at 2.6 exahash. Argo Blockchain and HODL both ended the month at 2.5 exahash. And then in 10th place was Iris Energy at 2.0 exahash. So you can see 5 of these companies are between 2 and 3 exahash. So again, we do have a top 3 and a top 5 that are very clearly separating themselves for the time being. We'll see what happens for the rest of the year. Okay, this is mining efficiency. So I did change my methodology here. So I just want to talk about that for 1 minute. What I have done in the past is a simple calculation. The number of exahash as of the end of the month divided by the number of Bitcoin mined for the month. Well, it seemed like that was not fair. Obviously, as companies add exahash, that could skew this number down. So what I've done now is 2 different things. For the vast majority of these, I've taken the exahash at the beginning of the month plus the exahash at the end of the month, divided it by 2 to get the average, and used that as their average exahash, and then divided that by the number of Bitcoin that they mined in the month. So just a little bit of a change. You're also going to see 4 of these that have these 2 stars right here. For these 4 companies, they reported in their monthly operational update what their average exahash was for the month. So I did not have to do an estimate or a calculation. They reported that right in their monthly update. The first thing I'll mention before we go through these is you're going to see these numbers are lower. These are the lowest they've been in a long time. And there's 2 reasons for that. Again, the 28 days versus 31 days is having an impact. So I just want to show you this little bit of math here to get from last month to this month. Last month, the top miner in efficiency was 109 Bitcoin per exahash. So if I divide that by 31 days and multiply it by 28 days, you would expect the exact same level of efficiency would now be a score of 98. Well, in addition to that, the difficulty level to mine Bitcoin increased by greater than 10%. So if I just knock 10% off of that, we're now at 89. So from apples to apples, a score of 89 or better would be at the top of where we were in January. So you can see Bitfarms, Hive, and Iris Energy are all above that number. Bitfarms at 91, Hive at 91, Iris Energy at 90. So those are very strong numbers, all things considered, for the month of February. CleanSpark at 87 is a very strong number. BitDigital 85, Cypher 84, Marathon and Core Scientific both at 81. So a lot more consistency this month. In the past, there's been a lot greater discrepancies. It seems like most of these miners are starting to get their Bitcoin miners up and running for the month, and especially with Bitcoin having risen in price quite a bit in January and February, there's a lot less curtailment going on, self-curtailment anyway. Wolf is at 72, Riot's at 71. That is lagging a little bit behind. I am expecting that Riot number to get up to its peers somewhere in that 80 to 90 range. Argo Blockchain's at 65 and HUT is at 62. Argo Blockchain has always been very near the bottom of this list for whatever reason, I'm not sure. And HUT, I believe, has been self-curtailing, potentially due to energy costs, but they also have recently found themselves near the bottom of this list. Okay, lastly is Bitcoin HODL position. So there has been a massive shift over the course of the last year. If you guys remember, a year ago, at the beginning of 2022, almost every single Bitcoin mining company was HODLing as much of the Bitcoin as they possibly could. A lot of them were HODLing 100% of the Bitcoin that they mined every single month. Well, there's now nobody left doing that. There's not one Bitcoin miner that's HODLing 100%. In fact, there's not even one Bitcoin miner that's HODLing 25% of what they're mining right now. The vast majority of them are selling somewhere between 75 and 100%, and most of them are selling 100% of the Bitcoin they mine. Some of them are selling more than 100% of the Bitcoin that they mined that month, and they're digging into their existing stack. So you can see there's really only 3 companies left with a reasonably large stack of Bitcoin, and then drops off significantly from there. So you've got Marathon at 11,392. Those are all unencumbered now. They did have a situation with a line of credit where a lot of these Bitcoin were encumbered. They have resolved that situation, so that's a big step forward for Marathon. HUT is in second place at 9,242. HUT did sell their Bitcoin the month of February. That's the first time they've sold Bitcoin in the last 2+ years. They did commit to the fact that while they're in the process of potentially merging, they are going to sell their Bitcoin in the interim. So we're going to need to wait to see if this merger happens or does not happen before they revisit their treasury policy, but in the meantime, they will be selling all the Bitcoin that they mine each month. Riot is in third place. They sell the vast majority of the Bitcoin that they mine typically on a monthly basis, but they're still over 7,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. So those 3 companies really stand out that have strong balance sheets with big stacks of Bitcoin. Hive has continued to grow their stack of Bitcoin. They actually did pull back a little bit this month, but they're at 2,365. So they are still trying to maintain a HODL balance of their Bitcoin. But again, you see there's a massive drop off from third place to fourth place. So Hive at 2,300 is just a little more than, Hive at 2,300 is just about a third of where Riot is at over 7,000. So then from there, BitDigital is in 5th place at 1,441. The rest of this list is very near zero. Cypher's at 465. Bitfarms is at 405. I do think at some point both of those companies will start to try to HODL some of their Bitcoin in the year 2023. The rest of these companies, CleanSpark, Core Scientific, Iris, and TeraWolf, all sell all of their Bitcoin each month, so they are at zero. So a lot of this will have to do with the price of Bitcoin, obviously, and over the weekend, we did have some very crazy price action on Bitcoin. So that's it. That's what I have for the month of February for all of the top 10 Bitcoin miners. I did go to 11th place on a few of these lists. So thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you enjoyed this content, please remember to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next video.